The consensus narrative is fixated on kinetic exchange. Media amplifies reports of Lockheed Martin tripling Patriot missile output. The industrial base surges. This is intentional misdirection. The public is being conditioned to watch the skies for incoming missiles, a threat with a high kinetic cost and a clear signature. This is a strategic liability, not a primary vector. The primary systemic risk is not fire, but silence. According to CSIS analysis, the true first strike in a peer-level conflict will not be a launch detection. It will be the simultaneous severing of sub-oceanic fiber optic cables and the blinding of satellite constellations. It's a non-kinetic decapitation, an attack with plausible deniability and catastrophic effect. The objective is not to destroy assets, but to negate information, to trigger a systemic solvency crisis before a single shot is fired, as documented in crisis protocols from institutions like UBS. Global liquidity freezes when transactional data stops flowing. The cost is zero. The damage is total. This protocol is designed to create a blind Leviathan, a superpower with immense kinetic force but zero situational awareness. A state with a launch-on warning posture that is suddenly deaf and blind is the single greatest accelerant for miscalculation and asymmetric escalation. Conventional weakness, as detailed in the Institute for the Study of War Assessments, becomes the trigger. They are not planning to win a missile fight. They are planning to prevent one from being coherently fought. The motive is not ideology, it is solvency. According to analysts at CSIS, the war has metastasized into a catastrophic domestic liability for the Russian state. The kinetic cost of the offensive, detailed in assessments from the Institute for the Study of War, is now economically and politically unsustainable. The regime is facing a liquidity crisis, not of currency, but of political capital and military-age men. A state cannot liquidate its most valuable assets, its conventional forces, and its demographic future, indefinitely without triggering a systemic collapse. For the Kremlin, a conventional defeat is not a strategic setback, it is a bankruptcy event. It guarantees the dissolution of the current power structure. This is not a choice. It is a mathematical certainty. This is the critical vector. When a nation's primary tools of power projection are depleted and its regime faces an existential solvency crisis, it is forced to pivot. It must shift from a strategy of conventional attrition, which it is mathematically guaranteed to lose, to one of asymmetric shock. Weakness forces this pivot. The use of a tactical nuclear weapon, therefore, is not an act of aggression. It is reframed as a balance sheet correction. It is the ultimate non-negotiable leverage to force a cessation of hostilities and reset the terms of negotiation when all conventional leverage has been expended. Conventional weakness becomes the direct and irrefutable accelerant for nuclear release. The mathematical certainty of this attrition strategy is found in the kinetic cost. Reports from security institutes like RUSI detail the brutal economics. A main battle tank, a capital asset valued at approximately $5 million, is being systematically liquidated by a $500 first-person view drone. The kill-to-cost ratio has inverted. It is now exponentially cheaper to destroy than it is to build and deploy. This phenomenon is clinically referred to as the democratization of violence. The term no longer applies merely to non-state actors. It is the core mechanic in state-on-state attritional warfare, the barrier to entry for inflicting strategic-level losses has collapsed. A small financial outlay can now neutralize a multi-billion-dollar armored division, creating a fatal solvency crisis on the battlefield. When your conventional military becomes an unsustainable financial liability, bleeding national treasure with every engagement, you have been economically cornered. The strategic playbook is forcibly rewritten. Conventional options are priced out of existence, making the unthinkable not just possible, but a mathematical eventuality. This is the direct vector from conventional weakness to asymmetric escalation. The kinetic front is a systemic misdirection. The true staging ground, the gray zone, is found in the periphery. Observe the signal. Austria has not merely issued a travel advisory for Venezuela, it has activated a national crisis cell. This is a state-level acknowledgement of a proxy laboratory in operation. According to analysts at USI, these zones are selected for pre-existing instability, making them low-cost environments to stage assets, test response protocols, and stress a competitor's logistical and financial solvency far from the primary conflict. It is a calculated feature of the economic attrition strategy. While Lockheed Martin triples Patriot missile output for one theater, the real objective is forcing the adversary to expend resources policing these engineered crises globally, accelerating their conventional weakness and pushing them toward the asymmetric threshold. The nuclear command protocol known as launch on warning is not a relic. It is a live-fire tripwire. The doctrine dictates that a nation launches its nuclear arsenal upon detection of an incoming enemy strike, before that strike makes impact. The decision window is not hours, it is minutes. This protocol is the final backstop against a successful decapitation strike. This entire system, however, presumes the integrity of the warning data. According to analysts at RUSI, the new vector for a first strike is not kinetic, but digital. A sophisticated cyber attack targeting early warning radar and satellite networks creates what is termed the fog of digital war. When the screens go black, the commander is faced with a zero-sum choice. Is this a system malfunction, or is it the prelude to a decapitation strike that is already in the air? Waiting for confirmation risks losing the entire arsenal. The launch on warning protocol is designed for this exact scenario. When data is absent or corrupted, the system is engineered to assume the worst-case scenario. Fear is irrelevant. The decision is algorithmic. A blinded command and control system, coupled with a doctrine that punishes hesitation, forces the launch. This is the mathematical certainty. A cyber attack doesn't need to fire a single missile to trigger a nuclear release. It only needs to create sufficient doubt to activate the pre-existing protocol. Conventional weakness, as noted by CSIS, makes a nation more, not less, reliant on these hair-trigger systems. The attrition is a feature, not a bug. While defense sector reports from firms like Lockheed Martin detail the historic expansion of missile output, the systemic effect is misdiagnosed. The strategy is not to win a kinetic war. It is to engineer a solvency crisis in a competitor's conventional military. As documented by analysts at the Institute for the Study of War, this slow-motion depletion of assets creates a mathematical certainty. The adversary's only remaining leverage becomes asymmetric. Conventional weakness is the direct vector for non-conventional escalation. Before a kinetic launch-on-warning scenario, a rational actor must test the response protocol of their opponent. According to CSIS frameworks on escalation ladders, this test will not be a missile. It will be a non-kinetic, high-impact event designed for maximum economic disruption and zero attribution. The calibration shot will occur within the next 12 months. Expect a catastrophic, multi-day outage at a primary subsea cable landing station or a core data center hub vital to Western financial markets, such as those in Northern Virginia. It will be publicly attributed to cascading system failure or a novel cyber threat. It will be an undeclared act of economic warfare, a signal that the threshold for escalation has been systematically lowered. End of forecast.